Edge Fun Party. No, we want another cheer for the Edge Fun Party. We're getting better at it. Shall we do it and try it again? Yeah.
Are you trying to wake the dead in here?
Excellent. Okay. The first act is Rebecca Ubuntu, and Rebecca is going to give us a song. On you go.
Summer time, and the living is easy. Fish are jumping, and the cotton is high. Oh, your daddy's rich, and your mama's good looking. Oh, hush, little baby, don't you cry. One of these mornings, you're gonna rise up singing. Oh, you'll spread your wings and you'll take to the sky. Oh, till that morning, there's nothing can harm you. With Daddy and Mommy standing by. Oh, summertime, and the living is easy, so they say. Fish are jumping, the cotton is high. Oh, your daddy's rich, your mama's good looking. Yes, she is. So hush, little baby, don't you cry. Hush, little baby, don't you cry. Thank you.
The first half, we want to purge all the injustices of 2012. We want to purge 2012. Tracy, what do we want to do?
We want to purge 2012. Do you want to purge 2012? You obviously don't want to purge as much as John wants to purge. Do you want to purge?
It's gotta go!
Let me hear you, people. What do you want to do?
Go!
Get out of here and purge.
We've got an urge to purge 2012, haven't we?
I've got the urge to purge. Do you want the urge to purge?
Can we keep the nice bits?
Okay, now after that bit of nonsense from Tracy and myself, we don't take ourselves seriously, so you shouldn't either. We are going to, I'm delighted to introduce, you're interrupting now. I'm delighted to introduce our local lad from just round the corner as our next act, Ansar Ulal. Ansar.
Just to say that I live in the East End, in East London. I've lived here since late 70s. And just to say that the communities of East London have always faced hardships and have always struggled against poverty, ill health, bad housing, and there has been a tradition of people in East London collectively fighting injustices. And I guess for our people, I'm referring to the South Asian community, the black people of East End. We have to cope with the most horrendous racial violence from the mid-70s throughout the 80s. But I must say, today things are different. But even then, we have the city encroaching here. We have the financial district in Canary Wharf, but there are still pockets of deprivation in the borough, and in fact, the borough is one of the most deprived in any way you can think of still. But despite all this, there are grassroots community groups and community activists who are struggling to address this imbalance. And I guess, usually more established groups with links to mainstream funding tends to get support. So I do hope the Edge Fund will be able to assist and support groups who are struggling against injustices in East London. Final word is Purge 2012, and let's look forward to 2013. Thank you.
And Sal, thank you very much indeed. And that really explains so well what the Edge Fund is all about, because it's a very different funding organisation. Many of you here, including myself, I'm always applying for funding, Tracy.
It's my second name. They call me Tracy, can I have?
Well, you've come to the right place, because often when you apply for funding as a campaigner, we're both campaigners against the third runway at Heathrow. That's what we did for a living almost. It was full time, wasn't it?
A little bit more than full time, yeah.
A little bit more than full time, absolutely. But we apply for funding for campaigns, and you have to fill in all sorts of complicated forms, and you never see the remote funder, and it's all a bit impersonal. Now, the Edge Fund wants to change all that. It wants to make not only funding much more approachable, much simpler, but the big thing is that the funders and those who are applying for funding will together decide where the money goes. And that is fundamentally different from anything else. And the other thing about the Edge Fund is that it will give only to radical funding. Now, yeah, exactly.
The first person in the migrant story slam we'd like to have up is my friend Pamadou Bojong.
Good evening to you all. First of all, I want everybody to join me in this hall, to face the mighty heaven in prayers. Should we just raise our hands like this? Okay, good. Down on my knees before this mighty heaven, I miss my home. Down on my knees before this mighty heaven, I remember August. August. Every time August comes, it starts raining. Every time August comes, my heart starts beating. August is like August in every year. Exodus towards unknown destination. Goodbye, sweet home, where my heart is. This is home, Brikama Sateba. All I have is this home, home sweet home. This is home where I belong. The men I left behind are my brothers, my fathers, my uncles, and my grandfathers. The women in agony and in tears are still my sisters, my mothers, my aunties, my grandmas. The children in tears are my kids, the kids of my friend, product of innocence. All because dictatorial invasion at home. Rough life, the only order of the day. Youth having hard time, no guides, no signs, working on a thing like sentence, no trial, victim of a profile. No hope, more fight, wonder why dictators and tyrants so hostile. Now exiled in Liverpool, home of radicals and European capital of culture. Almighty heaven, down on my knees before you, give me strength in the pursuit of justice. Politics or politricks, where is the justice? Debt toll rising, sex commercializing, barely surviving, future jeopardizing, no compromising, hope paralyzing. Rules need to revise. Why is it surprising? See, the storms are forming. Look around, it's so appalling. Almighty heaven, either by the gun, or the Bible, or the bullet, or the pen, or the microphone, but freedom shall come one day. Justice shall prevail one day. Home, where my heart is, missing my land, missing the cocorico of a bouncing cock, announcing the birth of a brand new morning. Missing my land, missing those beautiful friends I left behind, missing those children in tears, missing those women in agony, all because of dictatorial invasion and tyrannical rule. Missing the beauty of my lands, the sunshine, the moonlight, singing and dancing, the sound of the djembe mixed with kora, mixed with balafon and dundum. Brikama Sateba, this is where my heart is. I really miss you. Justice shall come, justice shall prevail. Almighty heaven, down on my knees before you, give me strength to conquer injustice in this beautiful land of the ancestors. Thank you.
I have more baggage than mementos. I changed the subject to avoid talking about myself. I carry poetry and prayers from my childhood. Everything else is lost. I changed the subject to avoid talking about myself. I'm curled up on the floor of Tracy's apartment when I find out that everything I own has been auctioned off. My most intimate journals might be for sale at a second-hand shop in Skokie. I changed the subject to avoid talking about myself. On the floor, I close my eyes and consciously construct images of my people being loaded onto cattle cars by the Nazis on their way to Auschwitz. I don't know if this is sane or insane, but it helps me stop feeling sorry for myself and move on. I changed the subject to avoid talking about myself. I miss my purple trousers. I miss my Oshkosh overalls. I miss the dress I wore to my first wedding. I miss my mother's ruby ring. I changed the subject to avoid talking about myself. Holding my daughter's hand, standing at Pierhead in Liverpool, I think of my grandmother, age 6, fleeing Semyonivka, about to board the steamship for America. I have to construct this image from a Hollywood movie because she changed the subject to avoid talking about herself. There are a few facts to this migrant story. My half-Scouse daughter was conceived on my dead mother's bed on a stormy night in Kentucky. She was born on the south side of Chicago in a snowstorm. She knows all the words to the first verse of In the Ghetto. and no country wants you if you're poor. You can be married, you can have a baby, you can be white, you can have a degree, but if you don't have 900 pounds, your family will be stateless. Which do you like better, America or here? I changed the subject to avoid talking about myself. I learned my lesson at Christmas time in the Dingle in Liverpool. I made one too many jokes about mince pies in the summer field, and an old man starts yelling at me and my daughter, "If you don't like it here, go back to where you came from. Why don't you go back to where you fucking came from?" I try and explain to Peggy, Rob's mom, that if we don't have 900 pounds, they're going to send me back to where I fucking came from. She's unsympathetic. "What about those Poles?" "They're EU citizens. They don't need visas." "Well, what about those Africans?" "Fleeing dictators. Horrible man, that Mugabe." "Well, what about those North Africans? They're all drug dealers." "Well, if they're drug dealers, they probably are not going to have a problem with 900 pounds. They write pathetic letters to the Home Office with the delusion that love will conquer all. I want to go to prison. I want to be Henry David Thoreau. I want them to try and lock up me and my beautiful little daughter. But instead, I take 900 pounds from the Arts Council. I take my money, I pass my test, my passport is stamped. And that's how I'm standing here.
Now, if you know Dan, you'll know you don't quite know what's going to happen next. So beware for a bumpy ride. On you go.
Is there anyone here that doesn't know Dan? Oh, okay. Please don't be offended. You have to sign a form when you leave. You can get therapy afterwards. It is free on the NHS. Maybe not in this borough, but in certain boroughs it is. So everyone take a deep breath and a round of applause. Dan!
That's why we don't want the NHS to be. Is that right? Yeah. That's why we don't want the NHS to be dismantled, because otherwise I'll get around. Thank you so much for coming tonight. Thank you so much to everyone for coming tonight. Sophie asked me to help organise the event, I don't know, not so long ago, a couple of months ago, and it's just such an honour to have so many amazing people in the room. I feel, the energy in the room is so vibrant. There's so many brilliant people, organisations, campaigners, activists, fighting on various different struggles across the UK, coming from Liverpool, Glasgow, you name it, on issues. We could go on. The list of injustices in the UK at the moment is huge. So that's why tonight, as John and Tracy were saying, is that we're going to put to bed all the bad things, all the things which go around our mind on our own, which get us down, that the government want to make us feel like we're alone. Put them to bed as we turn to a new year and look forward to some more hopeful things in the future, because at the end of the day, I'm not going to go on a massive rant.
Run! Starbucks!
I just said three words on my hand before we actually go into a tiny little bit of facilitation. First one is honour to be here. Second one, it's really important that we celebrate the fact and get together as well, rather than just sit on our computers, prepare the next demo or action or work, whatever, It's important to get together and celebrate, because they want us to be upset and they want us to internalise all the blame and the negativity that they tell us how shit we are. So it's really important that we celebrate.
Okay, so I'm Selena Nuru, a writer and poet. I'm going to do a few poems for you, which I hope you enjoy. The first one is about being unemployed. Does anyone have experience being unemployed? Yes. I wrote this at one of my lower moments, I think, in the process. This is called Fairness. Summer 2007. I dreamt in French. That was what uni was for, that first dream. That same summer I backpacked, got stranded in Prague, sat by French lakes and fell in love with inappropriate boys from afar. Later, I would escape to a dot in the Indian Ocean, watch my skin turn deeper shades of rich mahogany, never see so many stars. For a second, I would taste freedom. But sitting in this sterile room of unemployed doom and gloom, my life whittled down 2 times A4, to a CV polluted with pointless qualifications and exaggerations, these adventures, that which I consider my armour, my justifications tumble around my feet. So, you travelled where? Questioned the fursuit. Okay, sure, cool, but what did you actually do? Birdsong memories morph into the shrill of office phones, and somehow my summer, that summer skipping through soft winds and chasing after straw trilbies, doesn't seem acceptable. Not anymore. The suit's eyebrows tell me everything I need to know. The wind disappears, caution refines me and sits on my shoulder. Regrets hiss at my ear. Another stagnant statistic becoming. Weeks roll on, to and fro, signed on, switched off, monotonous actions in a room of failed ambition. And I do learn new tricks, like finding strength in my words and learning how to make the perfect cup of green tea during the commercial breaks that come down with me. Daytime reruns. Time passes and I become important in my unimportance. The job centre pulls in its reins and squeezes my mind of its optimism. So, what exactly do you want to do? Asked Suit 2. Oh, I want to write. I want to save myself and the world from its heart-wrenching anguish, and if we must go down, I want to go down fighting, like a captain on a sinking ship steering till the bitter end. In the meantime, I want colours, creativity. I want to care. Honestly, I do, because in a world that turns in greed and lust for yen dollars sterling, I want to care. Please don't make me not care. Please? Okay. Communications then? Suit 2 misspells communication on the form. I sink further deep in my polyester thread. Look skyward, but can't see the stars anymore. Just the plasticine cracks. Drowning in my melancholy, I look down. So, what exactly are you doing to look for work? Asked Suit 3, tearing my thoughts. Well, I'm falling in love. With jobs that pay me back in silence and automated emails, I'm having my heart broken on a daily basis by second-class letters informing me of unsuccessful applications. I'm trying to woo and charm recruiters, but in a crowd of desperate people, I'm just another pixel on a billboard poster. The thing is, ever since I learned the word future, I was told that if I tried and did my homework, I was owed one. And yet it feels like this big society has far too many debts, queues and loopholes to remember me and its side of the deal. And I'm left, like a red cheek full with so much to give and no one to take it. A jaded lover who was no one but a goldfish to give her love to. Thank you. Thank you.
When I speak, I speak with a lot of pain. Because it was a nice sunny day, like the song was saying, when my son was coming home from school, and that was the last day. That was the last day that I was able to see him and even say goodnight, as I always used to do before he goes to sleep. Because that was the day when he was arrested. A schoolboy fight took place with another boy he was with, and surprisingly and shockingly, the boy, the 13-year-old, was armed. And Tyrrell managed to get away from the confrontation, but because after he had left, stabbing took place, one stab to the heart. For one person, it meant that under joint enterprise, 4 other children, the ages of 13, 14, 15, and 16, was jailed, life sentences, especially Tyrrell, because he's my son, for a crime he did not commit. And then they said it because it was a joint enterprise. Press demonized them, saying that that they were gang members, which was, again, something that I couldn't understand how they could say such a thing, because there was no evidence of such a thing. But that was part of how they managed to come to their conclusion and convict my son for life. He was only 15 years old, And not only was I shocked and horror that such a thing could happen under this law, when I went to visit him in prison, you see so many other children, inside of jails who I didn't even know it existed, jails for children and who are facing life sentences under joint enterprise for something they didn't know or understand why they're there still. Cyril is now 21 years old, so he's out of the Youth Institute and he's in an adult prison now. You know, growing up inside of a prison, separated from his family for life, for something he didn't do. So we just want to bring it to the attention of as many people as possible so that this atrocity in this country could stop, because not only does it damage innocent people, but it ruins families, communities, and we just feel, you know, it has to stop. So I just wanted to share some of that with you.
This is the words of Ray Gilbert, and because he won't say he's guilty, he's writing this in a small cell where he's been for 32 years. In this hell I remain, stuck as in pain, held hostage by the state, adamant I see no gate. The justice system abrogate, filled with relentless hate, refusing to clear the slate, continuing to perpetuate. Moved around like a pawn, escalating an endless spawn. Punished for my stance, feels like I am in a trance. Continuation of a rut, home office keeping me put. Stitched up is a must, as I must adjust. Another board to appear. Will my freedom disappear? In a room of fear, will they provide cheer? Time will only tell. If released from hell, as they ring the bell, in this age of cell. Ray Gilbert, 32 years in prison for crime he didn't do.
Politicians' lies. You turn if you want to. This lady's not for turning. Read my lips. Politicians lie. New Labour, New Britain. Intermediate combat operations in Iraq. It's a big society. Politicians lies. And now for a word from the Mayor of London. More from him later. We have no links with that regime. We're incompetent, you're back in control. I did not speak with that lady, Miss Lewinsky. Politicians lie. Thank you.
I too have a poem, but first of all I want to speak about the reason I'm here. I run an organisation called Black Mental Health UK, which pretty much does what it says on the tin. It's about mental health, but it focuses on the UK's African Caribbean experience. The reason it exists is because even though black people make up less than 2.9% of the national population, this group are warehoused for decades in the most secure parts of the psychiatric system. 30% of people on medium secure psychiatric settings, 40% of people in high secure places like Rampton, Broadmoor, Ashworth. 10% of them have never committed a crime. The average stay of a black man in these high school places is 9.5 years, which is a decade. One of the reasons that's really, really key that people don't know about the work that we do is the death rate. Of all detained settings within the UK, 60% of people who die in care of the state are mental health service users. There's one group that's coming out in body bags. So I welcome this opportunity, and I thank the hedge fund for giving me this platform, and hopefully I'll be able to read in the dark. Is it okay to have the lights on, because I can't do this? Okay, so I can read my poem to you. Okay, and it's about a celebration. I'm celebrating victory. I'm celebrating the indomitable spirit that was given to us to overcome and defeat any obstacle that would stand between us and the liberty afforded to every human being living on this earth. I'm celebrating the achievements of my ancestors and forebears who have afforded me this gift. I stand on the shoulders of giants. It is more than a privilege to live out my dream, to speak out against injustice endured by a voiceless group. This so-called civilized society refuses to afford even the most basic human dignity. In the case of Sean Rigg, Jacob Michael, Fitz Hicks, Mikey Powell, David Bennett, Ibrahim Say, Oluseni Lewis, Orville Blackwood, and many more than I have the time to mention here, the right to life. I celebrate my privilege and the honour to serve on the side of righteousness and truth and justice for those yet unborn, who, because of my victories both seen and unseen, because of this gift to speak out against injustice in my lifetime, will mean that they will not have to suffer such indignities, no more than that, atrocities in theirs.
I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do.
Talk to me, Dan, come on.
Right, I don't know what to do. I can't stop thinking about it. You know, you can try and put these things and compartmentalise these things in your head so much, but I can't get my head around it. All I do is I wake up every morning and you see 3 neon signs, HIV. You walk down the street, you feel like you're wearing a sack which says HIV. You get cold, you think it must be the HIV. Your food shit, you think it must be the HIV. You go out and have a shit night and you put everything down to the HIV. I can't stop thinking about it. And I've got to learn a way of dealing with it.